Okay, we're live.
Okay. Good afternoon, and I'd like to call the Board of Commissioners meeting dated October 19th, 2021 to order. And I'd like to welcome everyone that is in our meeting today. And before we start our meeting, you can go online at sanilac.county.net if you want to call in virtually, and it'll give you instructions how to do that. Before we start our meeting, we're going to have the prayer by Commissioner Sarkella, and then I will have the pledge, and then Denise will have the roll call.
Dear Lord, we thank you for this day and for the opportunity to gather to serve our friends and our neighbors. Please be with us and allow us to make wise decisions, always mindful that all good things come through you. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Sarkella. The prayer. Denise, roll call.
One Commissioner John Block,
Here.
District 3 Commissioner Bill Sarkella,
Here.
Commissioner 4, District 4 Roger Ballard,
Present.
District 5 Commissioner Joe Wyatt.
Here.
And District 2 Chairman Gary Hughlin.
Here, present. Thank you, Denise. Moving on in our agenda, adoption of today's agenda. Is there any need to be any changes, any additions to our agenda today? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved. Support.
There's been a motion made in support of today's agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Today's agenda has been approved. Minutes from October 5th, you have in front of you. Is there any questions about the minutes of October 5th? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of October 5th, 2021.
So moved. Support.
Okay, then a motion made in support. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, all approved, say yes.
Yes.
All approved, say no. Okay, thank you. Motion passed. Correspondence, petitions, and introductions I have in front of you. I'm not going to go ahead and read them. There's 15 of them here. They're on the blue sheet. And I'll trust each one of you read them. If you've got any questions right now, we can answer those. Okay, next is Commissioner report. We'll start with Commissioner Wyatt.
I have a couple commissioner reports for the board appointments. Personnel board will talk about it.
Okay.
I attended Flint Township and Marlette Township meetings last week. Tonight is Buell. And that's about it. Had our parks meeting last week or on the 5th, I'm sorry. Our parks are doing well. Another high year, so.
Stellar year. Huh?
Yep.
That's all because we're great chairman.
No, we have a lot of good help. I'm just the secretary.
You've done a great job out there. Yeah.
If you could see my desk at home, you'd understand.
Head bottle washer and sweeper. Yeah. I'm going to make mine short also because I've got committee reports to talk about, but attended their township meetings, and still the big issues on their plate are how to the challenges that ARPA they face with, and how to get through it. And I'll explain that, and Commissioner Block will explain a little bit more this afternoon. We had a ARPA committee meeting today with I-Paramedics, and we had a lot of township personnel here. We had some city managers here. It was a good meeting. It actually was supposed to go on for an hour, and we ran, I think, about an hour and 25 minutes, but it was very beneficial, and we had a lot of answers given to us, and that we didn't know. So I thought it was a good meeting, and we're going to hold these meetings once a month, and we're going to have the township supervisors and officials and city managers come. So it was a very collectively, it was a good meeting for everybody. Again, the other thing we talked about in township is the blight issues, and there's some good things happening, people getting some good information. It's just going to take a matter of time. So, and as I said, when we get to the committee meetings, I'll address some of the ARPA things that we talked about today. And also we had a 9/11 meeting. I'll talk about that later. Bill?
Attended Port Sanilac Village, seems like quite a while ago, but it wasn't that long. They received some funding from their fireworks and music in the park donations. They're starting their street lighting program and their water project's moving forward, but they're waiting on state's SHPA review. I don't know what the historical portion has to do with it, but that's what they've been waiting on. But they're going to entertain contacting Andrew Beeler, trying to move that process forward. I'd like to report also that Nancy Rich has been assisting them with some GIS overlay. So it's great to see our county employees reaching out beyond just what they do here. And then Eric Barman has been very instrumental with them in some of the building permit issues that they've had going on over there as well. And I was able to attend Croswell last night. Their interim manager, Amy Klein, is on board now. And Sam Moore's last day was yesterday after 8.5 years. So he's moving on. Phase 2 wastewater is moving forward, and then they're in the process of posting their city administrator position. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Black?
I had a conversation with a few township supervisors, normal stuff. Everybody's still dealing with the medical marijuana ordinance issues. And then there's a lot of townships that are working on solar and wind ordinances or updates to their current ordinances. That's all I have.
Okay. All right, administrators report, Tara.
Just to elaborate on what we discussed a little bit at our ARPA committee meeting this morning. If you saw, MAC had released an update last week about the My Prosperity Roadmap, which is basically setting aside 5.7 billion of the state's ARPA funds to be leveraged against the local units. So there's different areas where this money can be leveraged. It's infrastructure, fiscal health, thriving communities, strong economy, and then public health and safety. There was an attachment to an email that went out last week, which I'll share this with you. It's about 12 pages, but it identifies different areas where we could potentially leverage funds, whether it's through a matching component or it could be up to a specific amount for certain projects. Some of the items, just glancing through this quickly, that the county or county departments would qualify for would be HVAC improvements. There's a section on there for parks and recreation and improvements to parks and rec. It talks about capital investments to the jail and health department buildings, and then also public safety needs such as body cameras. So I will share this information with the departments. There's no timeline yet on when to apply or how to apply, but at least it gives us the information so we can start planning to potentially leverage some ARPA funds in different areas.
Who was that through, Tara?
This is, well, it was MAC that released this last week, but this is through the
Okay.
state of Michigan. So there's, I don't know how much their ARPA funding was, but they're setting aside 5.7 billion for these different projects that we can leverage some funding. So that's good news. It'll stretch our dollars a little bit further. And then just one more quick update on the wind turbines and the taxable value litigation that's going on. There was a counter proposal submitted to DTE. It's probably been about 2 weeks. DTE is crunching the numbers on this, our counter proposal, if you will, and we are being informed that we should expect another counter from DTE. So I'll keep you updated when I hear more on that. But in the meantime, with that proposed bill being introduced, we are working to schedule a hearing because we still want to get that in front of the House so it can be reviewed. We've already been contacted by Treasury regarding the bill, which is very, typically that doesn't happen until there's been a hearing. So Treasury's already engaged in this bill, so that is good news for us. So I'll keep you posted on that. But Treasury wanted to know who was impacted, basically counties, whatever townships were impacted, but there's a total of 18 wind parks that fall into this litigation that's going on. So it's good to know they're paying attention to this bill. So we'll keep you posted as we get that scheduled.
I have a question.
Sure.
Who dropped out of that group?
It was there was a county that dropped out. Let me look that up for you. I don't want to give you the wrong
As we go
information.
forward and Treasury's interest in that, will their name be included in part of this as the original group, you think?
I don't think so, because they settled. basically, they
So
settled
they're out
on there.
completely.
They've done that a while ago. right?
Yes, that was a while ago. I can pull that information. for
No,
you.
if you think they've settled and they're out of it, they're out of it.
Yeah, they're not involved in it.
Thank you.
And that's all I have.
Thank you. Denise, can you turn that air down a little bit? I'm getting goosebumps and what hair I got left in my head, it's hurting.
You want me to turn it up?
No, down a little bit. It's pretty windy. out
I think
there.
he means up,
Make it
Okay.
warmer.
Okay.
warmer,
All right.
less flow.
Yeah, there you go. Go down, yeah.
Yeah, did you bring a coat?
I do, right here.
Put your coat on.
All right, at this time, we'll open up the floor to any public comments concerning the agenda today. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. And at this time, we're pleased to have Jerry Johnson, District 10 MSU Extension District Coordinator with us today.
Thanks. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm not alone, as you can tell. I have some of our Sanilac County team here. And we'll, in a minute, allow them to introduce themselves a little more fully, but I will say I've got, starting at the wall, Renee Stacer. What's that?
Art.
I know Arts, who works at our Huron County office. She lives here in Sanilac County and offices here time to time. We have Jared Jaborik, who's a new beef feedlot systems educator. And again, when I get done, I'm going to let him give you a little bio about what he does. Colleen Wallace, 4-H program coordinator. Betty Jo Krasnicki, supervising educator for 4-H for districts 9 and 10. 10 counties. And then I can see we have 2 4-H participants. Colleen's daughters are here, so
You got 2 or 3 maybe related there?
could be.
You might see a little bit of resemblance on that one.
Full disclosure, 2 bills on my advisory board, so yes, we all know each other here, so. Good, perfect. Next slide. So again, I do want to thank you for your partnership and for investing financial resources with MSU Extension in Sanilac County. And again, the difference, what we provide is we provide knowledge so people, so your residents can make educated and informed decisions about their life, whether it's in nutrition, wellness, youth programming, all tourism, etc. So we educate, we don't advocate. So next slide. Again, so today, real briefly, and you'll be getting the real thick annual report. I'm not gonna bore you with that today. So I'll leave that to you at another time, but we'll cover our mission, kind of the current climate, what's going on, not just in your county, but around the state. And again, we're usually a good resource for that. I cover 5 counties, my peers cover 5 to 7. So we can usually tell you what's going on in a neighboring county. And we do. Tara and I talk to county administrators, what's going on in neighboring counties. New staff intros, again, primarily, we're going to do a 4-H update today. So with that, that'll probably take up the lion's share. And then obviously question and answer as you see fit. Next slide, please. So again, we help people improve their lives through a process that applies knowledge to critical issues, needs, and opportunities, right? We're not going to vaccinate you. We're not going to do a physical and medical health exam, but we will help you stretch your food dollar further. We will teach you how to shop. We will teach you how to cook basic meals, especially true if you're on, financial assistance, if you're in the SNAP program, et cetera. And we'll go into more of that. Next slide. So for new commissioners, in case you don't know, MSU, it's a matrix environment. So we're divided into districts. I'm so-called District 10, which is the thumb, 5 counties of the thumb. We're also divided into institutes, and we have 4 institutes. We have health and nutrition, which again would be the SNAP program, food safety programming, things of that nature. Children and youth, which includes 4-H, but it's far more than 4-H. We do a lot of children and youth activities throughout the state. Agriculture and agribusiness. So again, we've got educators like Jared and other folks around the state that are experts in beef, they're experts in dairy, they're experts in field crops, forages. We have also experts in trees, we have experts in different forms of wildlife. And then community, food and environment, that would be tourism. new commissioner training. I know Tara's been to that. Some of the commissioners may have been to that. So that would come out of our so-called CFE. So it's we do things like citizen planner training. I think we've done that here in the last couple of years. So things that have to work with government hand in hand, or when we've had to help some governments that maybe have been in worse financial straits than what Sanilac County is, we actually have a group that helps them work through that budgetary process as well. Next slide. So again, all we've heard about at MSU and everywhere else for the last year and a half has been COVID, right? And it's led the headlines everywhere, but it's the tip of the iceberg. And I think we've all seen that now, right? The COVID cleared, we've kind of learned how to live with it, that we have a new normal, whatever that is. But what we've seen is that routine medical care is being neglected. I mean, it's not Jerry's opinion, that's a matter of fact, and we all know that. Cancer screenings are being delayed. We're going to see more people dying of cancer, dying at an earlier age from a cancer that could have been either cured or prevented, or they could have had their life extended further, but they did not seek treatment as soon. Physical fitness, nutrition kind of being put to the wayside. By everybody, no, but in general, yes. Educational achievement is waning. Again, not an opinion. Math and science scores have plummeted precipitously. The first time in almost 2 decades that math scores fell when they do a weighted average of the last 8 years, and it fell right now. So for those of us that still have kids in school or grandkids, it's looking like they're going to have a hard time faring well. It's going to have a hard time competing, because there are people, when you're in the workforce, you work there for 40 years. At some level, a 25-year-old is competing with a 45-year-old, right? And the scale turns, but if you're behind in math and science, it's hard to make that up. Unemployment is high, underemployment is high. And again, I'm not going to go into that because we could talk all day about why that is, right? But people are choosing not to work. Sometimes maybe they're being incented not to, but for whatever reasons, people haven't entered the workforce. And what does that lead to? We've had small businesses going out of business. And a lot of us, if we don't own one, we have a friend that owns a small business, and what's their biggest complaint? We have best friends that do it. I can't get people. I've got 3 stores. One of them is shut down. Why? Because I just can't get people to show up right now. So we got to keep it closed. That's the biggest problem with small business right now. Obviously, they've had to deal with all kinds of stuff the last 2 years, but right now it's getting people to show up. And there's a lot of food insecurity. There's still a 15% of kids are not properly nourished and don't get the proper level of nutrition each day. So that is out there. That's here. It's here strong in Sanilac County as well. Next slide. So again, this is the real high level just by the numbers, but this is not a deep dive. But again, you've got close to 600 of your youth involved in 4-H. You're down to 40,000 people. You've got a high, relative to the rest of the state, you have a high number of youth that are in 4-H clubs. So, right, so this is, Sanilac has a very high percentage of youth in 4-H clubs. That means I'm not going to one thing a year. I'm probably meeting monthly, every other month, twice a month, depending on the group. MSU spent $140,000 with Sanilac County businesses over the past year. There's 58 Sanilac youth currently enrolled at MSU, of which they received $1.1 million in financial aid. And there are 572 MSU alumni in Sanilac County. Don't know if any of you 5 are, but if you are, you're happy about the football team. And we also, the economic impact Sanilac County is about $4.2 million. That MSU does not come up with that number. I think we've mentioned before, that's the Empowering Michigan. So there's a research corridor, and the consortium of research universities is Wayne State, University of Michigan, Michigan State. But the Anderson Economic Group, in concert with them, puts together what that value. Now, that's not the value of MSU Extension to Sanilac County. We're part of that, but that's the value of MSU to Sanilac County based on that, again, independent measure. So our office, again, Erica's not here today, community nutrition instructor. That is a new position since I've been here. So Erica's been there for a year and a half or so. Betty Cho-Krasnicki, we just introduced. Shelly Kruger, not here today, but she does 4-H online data systems statewide, but she does office here in Sanilac County. Jared, who we've introduced you to, and Colleen. Mary Hayden, our office support staff, does a great job for us as well. So you know all those folks. Next slide. Some of the people you may not know, and really, again, some good news is, and I have the first two there that say new hire. It's not coming way down the road. These two people have accepted a position. So we're adding 2 field crops positions. These are educator level positions in District 10. The first, I know her name is out there now. I was the search chair, so I'm well aware of them, but it was Jenna Thaler. And she will be officing full-time in Huron County. Again, it's going to be a field crop and crop nutrition educator. Obviously, she will cover Sanilac County, right? No, educators do not work in just one county. But Jenna has a really good experience in the private sector. She's worked for technical or companies in technical sales. We're very happy that she's accepted. And then we're also hiring a gentleman, Caleb Ortner, is going to be officing in our Tuscola County office. Again, master's degree from MSU, highly experienced in agriculture, sorely needed. So they start in November 1st for Jenna, November 8th for Caleb. And then again, you can read there faster than I can talk, but we have dairy educators, food safety educators, Andy Northrop, educator, sustainable community. So we're well versed here. Chris Schwarzenduber also does a lot of programming in stress-related in mindfulness training. Next slide. And really just to kind of wrap it up. So, the more things change, the more they stay the same, is that irrespective of our life decisions, whether we choose to have a family or not, whether we're single, married, etc., we're always going to have to manage our physical health through nutrition, exercise, our financial health, and stress. And again, if you're, Bill Gates has stress, right? And so it's got to manage it. Money does not take stress away. There are ways to manage it. And we use evidence-based programming to help our residents manage that stress. And I'll tell you, the attendance for those courses and some of the courses where we have youth that are kind of voluntold to attend because they maybe got a little trouble is really high. So I will say, Relax Alternatives to Anger, 1 4-part course, and then Stress Less with Mindfulness. The attendance has been through the roof for about the last 18 months. We have to turn people away and send them to the next class. They're very good, evidence-based. Quiz question. There's only one thing you can do to control all 3 parts of your brain at the same time. And it's through breathing, right? It's through proper breathing. That's it. I didn't know that. So I didn't, I had science background, but not biology. There's only one thing you can do. Through controlled breathing, people can be taught to respond better to difficult situations through mindful eating, mindful walking, mindful breathing, etc. Again, we're uniquely positioned to do that. And if we can, we'll postpone questions till we're all done, but that's all I have as far as an overview. And then I'm gonna let Jared kind of talk a little bit about what he does since he's our newest staff member. Thank you.
I brought a few items to pass out here, kind of show some resources of what we do or what I've done in my role.
Don't hold it against him, but Jared, he got to teach you Ohio State, so I want to get that out there. So.
I got plenty of leftovers, so. Anyone else like a flyer? So as Jerry said, I'm a new educator here with MSU Extension. I've been in this role for just over a year now. My background, I'm originally from Wisconsin, central Wisconsin, a little bit of a dairy background as well as a beef cattle background. Went and did my bachelor's degree at University of Wisconsin River Falls and then moved on to Ohio State where I received my master's and PhD, mostly focused on feeding cattle and looking at meat quality of cattle. So on the larger flyer that I handed out kind of summarizes some of the things that I've done in my role. So for my role with MSU Extension, as Jerry said, I'm the beef feedlot systems educator. I have statewide responsibilities for basically all feedlot questions, concerns that come in. So my programming is focused around that. I also collaborate with the MSU Extension beef team. So a few of my colleagues across the state we're kind of scattered around, but we kind of serve or are able to serve our local producers, I guess. So here, being located on the eastern side of Michigan, I kind of serve just general beef questions as they come in. But we work together to develop programming. As you can see on there, one of the programs that we're working on right now is recertifying some of our producers for beef quality assurance. Other programs that we've or that I've been able to put on over the winter months, we do the MSU Feedlot Educational Series. So you can see a few of the topics that we covered last year. Right now, getting ready for the next year's worth of feedlot programs or presentations. And then a hot topic that's been going on in the beef world is crossbreeding beef bulls to dairy cows. So working with dairy producers and beef producers to successfully do that. We also have created a tool recently, one of the major beef packing plants located here in Michigan, JBS, located in Plainwell, Michigan, changed one of their marketing contracts for how producers get paid for their cattle. So we created a tool to help producers decide how they wanted to sell their cattle so that they could make informed decisions. I've also been writing timely articles related to various topics. I got a few listed there. Recently, I was writing about corn silages. It has been a harvesting season, so producers are able to make decisions as that relates to how much silage should I be putting in my diets. Should I be kernel processing, for instance? So those are two of my recent articles. So yeah, that's kind of a gist of what I do. And I guess I will stop there and let Colleen talk. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Jared, how many beef farms do you provide service to in Salem County?
So I don't know an exact number yet. Yeah, but basically serving them all. If they have questions, I'm willing to help them out. So still, one of the things I've been trying to do is get on farms and meet with those producers. In the past year, we haven't been able to do much in person, face to face, but now this year we plan on doing a hybrid role so that we can record it for producers across the state that can't make it to our area, but then we'll also have many of the local producers that can come and we can network face to face.
Thank you.
Yep.
Afternoon. First of all, I'd like to thank you very much for allowing me to come. I always appreciate being able to talk about my job and the role of what I do and how I impact youth in this county. So I'm going to start off with just what the overview is of a traditional 4-H program. So in this county, I have 309 volunteers. That fluctuates up and down based on people maybe step away, move away. Unfortunately, through this past year, I've had 3 fantastic volunteers who have passed on, so we lose them. We also, as you all know, we talked about this last time I was here, we had some issues getting our volunteers in through the new processes. We went to a lot of online. The wonderful thing about that is this has now been a form that's created. It's a paper form and it allows me to re-enroll them. So when we went through all this, some people kind of went into what we call the COVID timeout. They didn't have access to internet, all of those pieces. That's now been eliminated. They literally fill out 1 page, front and back, and then I'm able to put them through the systems. So that helps me in retention of volunteers. I cannot do it without my volunteers. They're essential to everything that I do. With that, within this county, we have 11 committees. So that's from horse committee to councils, to large animal livestock, junior livestock, which is just youth, all of those. Most of those committees meet monthly, and I'm in attendance at those meetings to help support them, make sure the bylaws are good, give them any resources that they need. They're the ones who kind of make the program go. They also are the ones who bring back what education do the kids need, what do we want to do with that. And then I have 35 superintendents. Superintendents are the people who are in charge of the project areas when we go to the county fair. So they are the people that I meet with twice a year We go through and I meet individually with each of them to review their entire fair book, all the rules that they have, the things that they want to see, make sure everything's in alignment, and we go ahead and work with them. With the 309 volunteers, we have leader updates twice a year. We have a spring one, which kind of gets everybody ready for all the summer programming, all the workshops that are being offered, all the things they can take back to all the youth within their clubs. And then in the fall, we do a fall wrap up because we have to do financials. We have to do what things do we have, what are we doing during the winter? How did everything go? What do you need from me? Let's get restarted in the year. Just since October 1st, I've been able to recruit 5 new leaders. That's something that happens quite regularly, which helps me maintain my numbers. With that though, they have to have training. You can't just bring a volunteer in and say, okay, great, now you're a 4-H leader. Go do what you gotta do, because that doesn't usually work out. So we do a lot of new leader trainings. I do those 4 times a year. Next slide, please. So then we have our youth in our county. This year, I was able to maintain 591 youth within the county went to traditional community clubs. The reality is we had 5 weeks. We opened our doors and said, no masks, no rules, no anything on July 1st. So usually we have deadlines that everybody's re-enrolled by December 1st because our program year starts on September 1 and ends on August 31st. This year, people were hesitant. We didn't really know what was going to happen. We were kind of in the background. Are we going to have face-to-face? Are we not going to have face-to-face? We continued to offer programming. We continued to offer kits. We had lots of kids take advantage of that. But there were other kids that, quite frankly, they're fair kids. So what they want is they want to be part of Fair 4-H and they want to go to the fair. We didn't know how that was all going to work. But as you can see, outside of that, just in the 5 weeks that I had, I also was able to reach another 384 kids. Those kids didn't sign up in 4-H. They're not in those numbers, but they're kids that I got to go and program with. So that's just through some of my partnerships with schools, my partnership with the Child Advocacy Center, all of those things. I'm able to offer programming and do things with them. Next slide, please. When we are talking about our traditionals, some of the things that we do to celebrate the people who are within our community is we do have a county award celebration that actually is coming up at the end of November. That's where all the kids get to apply for their awards. They get rewarded for just being in 4-H for 15 years, for 10 years. We just have basically a big event that's a lot of fun. We enjoy ourselves and the kids get to come and kind of celebrate. All leaders, parents, and youth are invited. Then in March, we have a leaders banquet. So that is where we do a catered meal for all the leaders in the county. We usually have at least 100 in attendance. We acknowledge their years of service and we continue on with the Friend of 4-H and all of those big presentations for them as they've, like I said, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of service. They know way more than I do. So we kind of like to try to honor them and keep them around. Next slide, please. We also host a spring fair. So a spring fair is an event where we advertise it in every school to introduce people to what 4-H is. It's a free event. The kids are able to bring all of their still projects. So we focus primarily on stills at this. So they bring all their photography, their cooking, all of those things. They're able to bring it in, present it, and then be able to take it back to work on it. If they want to bring it to fair, some of them don't want to bring it to fair. This is good enough. They're happy to bring it to this. But we also have all of our clubs set up. We have an entertainment. We do all of that stuff so that we can introduce the community to what's happening in 4-H. Because unfortunately, the stigma for 4-H is it's just the county fair and you have to have animals. So we try to break that model because that is not what we are. We are so much more than that. So Spring Fair is one of those pieces that we put together in my council sponsors where we can introduce people to 4-H and get them to sign up and participate without ever having to own an animal or do any of that. We get to showcase that. Next slide, please. This is one of the pieces that is personal success for me. When Exploration Days is 3 days on the campus of MSU. We get to take kids down there, they get to take classes, they eat in the cafeterias, they stay in the dorms, and it is an amazing experience to watch kids find their independence, find some self-reliance, to get some absolute self-confidence. I watch it every year. When I started, I'm on my 6th year. So 5 years I've gone to Exploration Days. I'm gonna be 6 years here in December. I started and I think I had 12 kids. So the first year I really recruited and I got it up to 30. This past year, I took 68 kids and 10 volunteers. I'm one of the largest counties that show up at Exploration Days. Really cool other piece to this is my council, who is an amazing body of people who support my 4-H program, give every one of these kids a scholarship that pays for half of it. So it's a $235 trip, but my council supports this so much, they come in and they support these kids at half price to go to it, and they pay for all my chaperones to attend. So my goal is to get 75 kids to Exploration Days. So I have to get a second bus, because I get a bus to transport them all down there, and then some still drive individually. I would love to get to the point that I need 2 buses to get all my kids there. Fantastic program. And I also am now, in order to kind of have a voice in this, I am now part of the statewide planning team on this to make sure that we have a quality program for our kids as we've been on hiatus and went to a virtual one. So as we're going back face to face, I'm part of this planning team. Actually had a meeting this morning with some great ideas. Next slide, please. When we go to Exploration Days, one of the things that happens is it is our state awards. Our state 4-H awards are very similar, or we compare them a lot to getting an Eagle Scout award through the Boy Scouts program. It's a very prestigious award. It takes a lot of time and effort for the kids to get this. When I came into the program, I had no one who was applying for it. These are just a smattering of the kids that I have now applying who go for state awards, who become winners. It is a rather rigorous application process. It's an interview process. It's all of those life skills that are super important. And the kids get to showcase what they're working on, and they get to come back year after year. So if they don't win it, then they come back the next year. Once they win it in that program area, then they move on to another one. I have kids who are repeat applicants to it. And we've had kids every year applying for state awards. Next slide, please. Some of the other things that I do. So some of the things that are what kind of fuel my soul and make this really fun job is I do spin clubs. What we call a spin club is basically a short term, 4 to 6 weeks long. It's very focused. So it's going to be an hour and a half, 2 hours, 4 to 6 weeks, and it's going to be about something very specific. So for example, we did embryology. Kids had an absolute blast. We set up incubators, we hatch eggs, we talk about all the parts and pieces through that. We deal with the eggs that don't hatch. All of those pieces happen all the time. Try it Tuesdays. Right before we had a shutdown, every Tuesday we picked a different thing to work on. So kids would sign up and they would learn sewing, or they would learn candle making. So there was just a whole plethora of different options that kids get to sign up for and try something different. I'm always trying to build my stills project area because we have a lot of animals that come to the fair, but we've really waned in the amount of baking that comes and the amount of sewing that comes. And it's a skill that's really kind of being lost. So we try to make sure that we come back and offer that. Another piece is my vet science. So my vet science literally is a club. We meet once a month. Thumb Veterinary Services runs it for me. There's kids from 5 counties who come to that because it's a very cool. We get to sit, the kids have been through surgeries of spaying of cats. We do ultrasounds. We have a model and we put a deceased calf in it to talk about how calves get stuck when you're trying to birth them. All of those parts and pieces, really good vet science that we do. And so that's one of the pieces. We actually have 2 that we're going to start rolling out as everybody's getting back to being able to do stuff. One will be very intense with a lot of dissection. So we're talking bringing in parts and pieces and the kids get to cut them up. And then the other one is more, not as much gruesomeness in case they don't particularly care for that. It's kind of surprising. I have 8-year-olds that love to cut up eyeballs though. So we also do what we call is a cloverwood camp. So once a month we cover 4, so it's once a month and it's 4 hours long. In each hour we do something different. So we'll learn about an animal, we'll do a craft or an activity of some sort. We then will make our lunch, and we always are working on healthy eating. So we make a lunch, that's the picture here. My foods committee is awesome. They come in and help, and the kids learn to make a healthy lunch. They get to eat what they make, and then we do some sort of physical activity. So we keep that rotation going. When we went into COVID, because we couldn't meet face to face, we continued to do this. We just put it in a box. So we did a lot of stuff that we call camp in a box. So they could come and pick it up and it would have all the activities and it would have a recipe in it and it would have all the parts and pieces for them to do the things, but that way we could still keep them engaged. Another thing that I do is a ton of workshops. So workshops are one day, you're coming in and learning about it. So whether it's, we're going to, for example, this year, we have sheep and goat showmanship. So you're going to come in on one day, you're going to learn all about showing sheep and goats. So it's going to be very focused. Kids from everywhere can come. I've done multiple of these. I do them in everything from alpacas to dogs to cats to gardening. I've partnered with Sullivan Supply doing cattle fitting. I've partnered with them twice. I've had people come as far from as West Virginia to come to those. Those are very well attended. It's a really good program and it's free. So when I partner with these certain entities, it costs nothing other than you just coming. So the kids pay nothing. They get to take advantage of this. We've done goat and sheep clinics before. I've had kids at Lapeer FFA comes to a lot of my stuff because the quality of the education that goes on. And most of all of these, especially in my livestock area, the clinics get planned by my junior livestock. So that is a board of nothing but youth. And they pick the topics that they want to do and then they plan it, put it all together and orchestrate it. So those are just some of that's just a brief overview of some of the things we do. Next slide, please. So another thing that I'm really proud of and what we have managed to accomplish is we have this list of national events: Citizens Washington Focus, National Congress, National Conference, at the Ag Summit, Capital Experience. Just to name a few, we have Winterfest, we have a bunch of different camps, workshops located throughout the state. When I came, no one went to any of them. And it was just a lost opportunity for kids to go to these things because the experiences that they get. So for example, Citizens Washington Focus is a week in Washington, DC. Kids take a bus with a bunch of other kids from the state of Michigan. They go, they get to participate, they get to see what the big government's like. Capital Experience is 3 days in Lansing, and they get to work with legislators, and they get to see how our government works. And it's a very intense, it literally counts as a civic credit. If you're a homeschooler, the intensity of that would count as a civics credit. We have kids at every one of these events now. I have kids who are on state planning to make Capital Experience. They've gone, they now go back and help plan the event for other kids. I have kids who are on these national programs where they come back and present and they join teams with kids throughout the country or throughout the state to continue to program with this. Winterfest is one of my other favorite events that we've had kids. It usually fills up within 4 hours. We're gonna have to figure out a new thing because we sold Kettnan Center, but I'm sure we'll figure out a way to bring that back because that was something that 8 to 12-year-olds went to, got to spend the night, got to go to classes. It was like a mini version of Exploration Days. And it was amazing to see what happened to kids there, just to see them gain that confidence and be able to just walk out of that feeling so much pride in themselves for having been able to master Kettnan. Next slide, please. Another thing that so the ambassador program, we did away, or MSU was no longer wanted to have a king and queen court. So what we had is we had a 4-H ambassador program. When I came into my role, we had 3 kids who applied. It's a rule that we've rewritten the program. It's a year-long thing. It's all about leadership development as well as community service. With that, we've been able to grow that. So the kids have an application that they fill out, then they have an interview that they do, then they have expectations of attending meetings, doing community service projects, recruiting other 4-Hers. It's a year-long program for them. And we crown our top 2 based on their applications, interviews, and the amount of stuff that they accomplish over the summer. And then the reign is from spring fair to spring fair. So this is what a normal year looks like for me in ambassadors. This year, I'm actually missing 2 from this picture, but we still were able to get 5 in the short period of time we had. Usually we do everything at spring fair. This year we couldn't. We were into July before we even got started with it. But we were able to get 5 fantastic seniors and 2 juniors into our ambassador program. We also hand out scholarships. So my council supports 5 $500 scholarships for continuing education. This year, we actually awarded 6 because all 6 of the youth were absolutely outstanding and we didn't want to turn any of them away. One young lady actually is, I think, moving into college, so she didn't make the picture. Next slide, please. Community service is huge for us within this program. It's one of the things that my kids take the most pride in. They enjoy doing the most, and they have quite an impact in what they do. Up in that corner, that was a project that was initiated by Mary Hayden. She decided to do a can drive during our shutdown. And she filled the entire round roof barn, which was fantastic, except for then we had to sort $10,000 worth of cans, bottles, and everything else to get them all back to the thing. All of that money actually went into the fairgrounds. There's about a $60,000 project going on in the back of all new horse arenas and all new footing. It's only costing us about $15,000 just because of the donations that have come in and the families and businesses that have stepped forward. But 10,000 of that is coming out of these cans, and we had kids there constantly sorting cans and putting them in bags, and so this sort of thing. This is a group of nothing but clover buds. So these kids are all 9 and under who go out to the parks and clean up. So I have clubs that are just littles, and their leaders are fantastic about, we're going to teach them to get back to their communities, and these kids have an absolute blast. There have been multiple times that this is the Little Rascals 4-H Club. They've made blankets to go to the sheriff's department. We've made blankets to go to hospice homes. We've made blankets to go into cancer centers. We made bags to go into emergency rooms. They learned how to sew, make together feed sack bags, and then fill them with a bunch of coloring books and everything else for kids who wind up in the ER. Community service is a huge part of what we do. Community service is also a huge part of what I do. So even when we're on shutdown, I reached out personally. We did multiple food trucks. We did multiple community projects just to stay active within this community because we knew the need was there. Next slide, please. So just some of the partners that I work with. I'm on the Prevention Council. That's a monthly meeting, and that's an amazing group of people who we deal a lot with the suicide, which has resonated very heavily within our youth population recently, or always has, but it's definitely on the increase. Child advocacy, we partner with them to do their empowerment camp. So we went out this year. So last year we did a camp in a box. Like I said, we kind of all changed it up. We went to the drive-in. We were able to do stuff there, but we put together really fun boxes for the kids of stuff to do. This year, we were able to actually go back out to Camp Cabell, thank you. We were at Camp Cabell. 4-H sponsored the Warrior Dash. So the kids had multiple activities, things to just challenge themselves. CPS schools, they come in. So I have teachers there who come in and will check out resources from me. Ask me for different ideas, whether it's on wildlife science or embryology or all of those things. Also, we will go out and teach when they go to Camp Oseman. So that was one of the things that as soon as we got cleared, the day after we got cleared, I went and taught 198 kids about native bees and helped them build beehives and all of those things. PEC schools, work with them on a ton of different things. We kind of work with all the schools in the area. Sanilac FFA is another one. We partner a lot with them. Especially on our judging teams. So we had no livestock judging or any of those parts when I came in. We now have a livestock judging team that has won at state level. So my junior livestock team actually won, and we partner with the FFA so that we all can train together. And we're continuing that this year. So we're adding in dairy as well as meats judging. So I've already spoken with Mrs. Schluter and Mrs. Holbrook, and so we're going to start that in December. Libraries, we do a ton of things of different like gardening plants, doing like little drop-ins. So those libraries really like have stuff for kids where they kind of come in, you learn how to plant a bean seed, it's a beanie baby, and we have it in a baggie, and like you do the whole thing, and the kids love that. We are working on putting incubators inside of there, so that way they can have incubators in and have the eggs hatching, and we can come in once a week and teach on that, and the kids can come, but they can come all week and see the eggs in the process. Community Foundation is amazing to me as far as their support. Just fantastic, work really well with Melissa and love everything about what they do. And they have helped me to get some really fantastic funding. The Historical Museum, we go out there, we work with them a lot, whether it's a fixing project, if she needs some help, if she needs us to come out and bring animals for an event, I can reach out to 4-Hers. So we partner with them quite a bit. The Save Council, partnering with them, they're kind of part of the prevention, but then everybody kind of picks different projects and then they reach out to see if you'll help. We actually are part of the Harvest Hop this coming Friday. So we're expecting 300 kids that are going to be at the Harvest Hop. We're handing out, I'm making cotton candy courtesy of one of my 4-H families. We're handing out soybean crayons as well as a bunch of swag, and we're introducing kids to 4-H and how to get them there. We'll also have a physical activity like that. Sandusky Summer Rec, we've worked with them, lots of different planning, and going to take even more advantage of that this summer as we're going to go after an intern, so that way they can go once a week and program with Sandusky Summer Rec. And then the Salem County Fair Board, so that we have our fair. Next slide, please. So these are the projects that are in motion. This trailer has been my dream for the past 5 years. I finally was able to make this come to fruition. I tied for first place at the Women Who Cares event last October, which awarded me then $5,000. We have the trailer set up and it's roadworthy. It's getting wrapped. Austin just got married, so he's working on the wrap for me. As soon as that's up, this trailer goes on the road. Why does this trailer matter? Because we have over 30% of our kids living in poverty. We have over 30% of our kids in a single family home. They don't have the ability to get to Sandusky to do the programming that I do. They don't always have the ability to stay after school or want to stay after school just because of the relationship they have with the school. This allows me to take programming to them. So this lets me go to, so for example, Deckerville Community Center, I'm already welcome there whenever I need to be there. So I can offer programming and we can go in and do a 1-day, or we can do a spin club. We can do whatever. We can teach them about robotics, or we can teach them about baking. This trailer will have sewing machines in it. It will have sporting equipment in it. It will have crafting equipment in it. It will have just a plethora, science, engineering nights, just an entire array of things. There also will be a ton of volunteers trained on how to do this. So say their youth group at church would like to do something. Okay, take the trailer, go do that. One of the other wonderful things that we now have is we don't charge kids to be in 4-H, and they just fill out a paper form and they're a 4-Her. So we no longer have the $20 fee. Every kid in this county can be part of 4-H for free. Every kid in this county can partake in all of this, and that's what we're working on. So that is a project that has been near and dear to me. When we are always hearing about diversity, the reality is poverty doesn't know anything other than poverty, and these kids deserve just as much as everyone else. So my solution, or my way of trying to acquire these advantages or these opportunities for them, is to get to them as opposed to expecting them to come to me. Question?
You mentioned the $20 fee is no longer being asked for. When did you drop that?
We dropped that last year.
And what sort of increase in numbers did you see?
So we didn't see an increase in numbers, but that is going to be because of the year that we had. The reality is if there's not, if you're not interested in doing a virtual program, or you're not interested in picking up a kid, are you going to go through you're not going to go through the work of it. We did a poll. So we did some research right as soon as COVID hit. One of the big things that we knew in all of these listening sessions is people didn't want virtual. especially in our rural counties, from the standpoint, it's not reliable, it's cutting in and out, it's all of those things. So with that, I was one of the first in the state that started doing kits. I listened to those listening sessions and we continued to offer stuff. I put out over 148 kits in this county alone of just rockets and kites. I did 208 kits of gardening. So hydroponics, some vegetables and some wildflowers. Kids signed up from everywhere to do that. We continued to do that. We offered contests. We had window paintings, we had pumpkin carvings. We had drawings every week, all of those things. But as we all know, after a while, that was really fun when we first started and we all adapted to it. But everybody gets to the point where we just want to go back. And so as we're rolling into this year, my numbers already for this year are quite fantastic. And I'm pulling in all new families. I'm not only those, but I'm very impressed with the new families that are coming. And we're back to being able to do what we do best, which is give kids hands-on learning experiences. That's what I am.
Did you have increased material costs during this COVID year and a half of virtual? You're talking about putting together kits. I mean, this is all material you'd have at a fixed location, but now you're delivering them and
So, yes,
putting them in boxes and driving
the
around.
shipping costs were astronomical. So in that, it was $8 a kite to mail. It was over $8 a rocket to mail. So you're right, the costs became exceedingly high. Mailing the gardening thing, and I do it the most cost-effective way I possibly can. To mail all of those became very cost-effective, or very cost inhibitive. We would put up our canopy outside of our building and we would load it up underneath there. So then they could just stop and pick them up. So then we only had to mail who wanted them, who wasn't able to get to Sandusky. So we'd still have like 50, 60 kids show up and they take their cans. So we did like a tin can punch and we put those out then they're there. Or we would do, we did a whole thing where we did actually just mail them the little nails and the little nails, as well as a pattern for them to do string art. So they get to choose which string art pattern they wanted. And then we would mail those. We did string art projects. We did all of those things. Yes, it does get cost inhibitive. What we do have the advantage of is we have a really great, strong 4-H program. And so of the $20 that's been collected for 4-H, $5 of that comes back to county. So $5 of that comes under my discretion. We use that to purchase materials. So we buy.
But you didn't get that $20 this year.
No, but I still had money in the reserves. So I covered that. I also got a $750 expenses is what I had for personal or for office expenses.
So of the fees that are assessed to the individual subscribers, a quarter of it stays in Sanilac County for your use for those particular subscribers, and 3/4 of it goes to 4-H International, National, whatever.
It goes to MSU, so that pays for background checks on every volunteer that we have. Those are quite costly. It also puts a accident insurance on them. So every child who's in our 4-H program and every volunteer has accident insurance as well as liability insurance. And then I can't speak to, it starts adding up rather quickly.
Well, that's a pretty significant cost. Where's that coming from now that you no longer collect that $20?
We had that expressed to us that we knew that we were taking away the cost for the year of COVID. So it was kind of like our gift back. It was within the past couple months that we received, hey, we're not gonna, as we rolled into the new program year, we're not gonna charge it again. They then came up with they gave us lists of sources where they were covering the monies from.
Do you have a number that you didn't receive this year as your quarter of the applicant price?
We're not shorting the program funding. We're not taking it from kids anymore. So there's like MSU extension funding, most of our funding is from grants.
Well, I mean, she said
So it's-
$5 of every 20 goes
Right.
back for her to buy crayons and tape and
And Betty
whatever.
Jo may know the answer to the $5.
It would be about $2,500 to $3,000 per year that was coming back in.
And where's that coming from now?
That will need to be.
Because you said you had money left over from the previous years,
It's still.
which you were spending, but what about this last year?
So moving forward, so this year and moving forward, those funds would need to be raised locally. So we have a number of options. We have our 4-H council who can help with some of that fundraising. We have some grants or some money with the Michigan 4-H Foundation. So funds that have been put into endowments. So those will start to kick back into the county. And Colleen will have access to those endowment funds to use. We actually have 2 endowment funds that are set up. One is specific for livestock programming and one is, it's not restricted. So she'll have those funds coming back in from that. Outside of that, it would need to be through like 4-H council or any of the other committees doing fundraising.
Is that sustainable over the years, long term? Do it that way? Are you-
It really is.
I take it you're back face to face with 4-H meetings? Because I just seen a email I got yesterday from Quentin Taylor. You probably all got it. It says for indoor MSU extension program and events occurring on non-MSU property, face-to-face coverings are required for MSU extension personnel and participants. Is that true? So that's gonna, you can't make face-to-face.
So can I speak to that? My understanding of that is if it's held in a volunteer's home, we are not policing that, no face mask would be required. And that's where the majority of our community clubs meet, is with a volunteer. Now, if Colleen were to host something on the property that MSU occupies, so in the county building, then we would need to have masks indoors, which is why she has encouraged and has pushed to make all of those meetings as much as possible outdoors. So or in a barn. We've been instructed if it's outdoors or in a barn with good ventilation, we would not need to enforce a mask rule. So that's.
So
where
you can
you're gonna
hold names
see-
at the 4-H fair.
So, yeah, so like for all my leader updates, so I did fall leader updates. We went to the north side of East Stand. It's a barn. I opened doors, nobody has to wear masks.
What about in January and February?
That's why, sir, I've asked for the FFA barn because it's a barn.
Okay.
And so that's where all of my stuff is put.
I just wondered why that direction come out when Gretchen stopped us back in June, face mask, why 4-H is,
That goes way.
we're trying to get
way
kids,
this
we're trying to
room
get
here. I
kids out.
agree with
and
you,
then
but
Right.
we put up a shield again.
Well,
I don't get it.
you guys have friends. My daughter goes to MSU, right? Yeah, she doesn't wear a mask in class. And she's vaccinated. I don't get it. I mean, that I didn't get a vote, so.
Right, so understanding where our community sits on all of this, understand that I figure it out. So when this stuff comes from there, I've already heard these directives. It's just like all of the stuff that came down prior to fair. The Wednesday before fair, we sent out a mask mandate again. When I'm looking at things, this is a barn and it falls underneath the area of me.
Sounds like you got enough gray area to move laterally, so
Yeah.
perfect.
Yes, and the less we have to discuss.
And the less we
then
talk
the
about
less.
it,
I don't
the
ask for
better off we are.
permission, I ask for forgiveness.
There you go.
Wow.
All right. The only other question I had is,
Yes.
Jerry, when you were talking, and you and I've had this conversation before, many times. You've got a lot of staffing over here, and you've got a lot of staffing here. And some of the staffing, and we've talked about here, I've talked to you about, we have Jared doing his job, and Jared, this is nothing you negative, but most of the farmers in Hannibal County that are into beef and dairy, they rely on their sources where they get their feed from. Guys that grow crops, most of their information comes from Nutrien or other businesses that have sprayed. So how effective is that? And this is probably not a fair assessment, but it's like we had a neighbor lady 10 years ago was still trying to sell encyclopedias when we had internet. And so it looks to me like over time it's gonna phase away, where we need specialists from MSU Extension when people have access right here in 2 seconds.
Let me, just because I come out of the private sector, right, so I can speak to that as well as anybody. And let me just tell you something, no matter how honest the person is, if I work for that company, don't think that at the end of the day, if I got a product that'll work, I'm gonna try to steer you into that product. If you have an educator out there, they don't have any skin in the game. They're not getting paid by somebody that makes this feed or that feed or this nutrient or that nutrient. And that's you get more of an impartial, unbiased. They're gonna work with you to do what's best for your farm at your cost level. They're not trying to make sure that Dow gets this money, or nothing against Dow, but that somebody's getting the money. That's not it. So you get much more unbiased view. It's no different, Gary, with kids. You go play softball. You can say, I'm gonna do sports. I'm not gonna do 4-H. I wanna do Boy Scouts. That's fine, or I can do both. But it's different, somebody said, why would I go join 4-H and not Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts? Well, Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts will tell you what you're going to do and when you're going to do it and the program you're going to follow. And nothing against them. We all have friends that were Eagle Scouts. That's great. 4-H, you're gonna pick your own path. Like Colleen said, hey, maybe I'm not comfortable with livestock, but I'd like to try it. And I can try it because they'll pair me up with somebody that has livestock and I can actually dabble into it. If I'm a young woman and I don't get significant experience with science by the time I'm 13, I will not choose science as a career. A boy might, girls won't. There's plenty of research on that. They'll just back off from it. Doesn't mean they couldn't have been the best scientists to walk the earth. They're going to not pursue it if they don't get exposed at an early enough age to science-based things. So I just think 4-H, you pick your path. We have one of the best rocketry programs in the nation.
I thought when kids are in school, elementary, junior high, during the time period in which you're speaking, they'll take pretty much the same classes. The exposure that they receive is pretty much the same across the board.
I'll tell you, I've got a daughter who's a school teacher, and she teaches special education kids. She's dual major, and she'll be the first to tell you, teachers are very uncomfortable teaching science. That's their least comfortable topic. You go to elementary schools, I'll disagree with you. There's plenty of teachers. We're getting calls like never before in all my counties, bring 4-H in because they want some science-based program.
You just made an application based on gender that females don't,
Well, I didn't. It's just a study.
they don't seem to have the opportunities to be presented with science-based education, which is not the quality of the science-based education. And we're talking about actually being, immersed in it to the same degree that their counterparts who happen to be male are immersed in it as well.
Well, with all due respect, I didn't say that. What I did say is that there's not enough of an immersement with a young woman. She's less likely to go into a science-based field. And that's not Jerry's opinion. There's plenty of research on that. There's plenty.
So you're saying that we need to emphasize it to a greater degree than we would for
No, I'm just
boys
saying
sitting in class with them?
What we do is a lot of science-based programming and kids get permission to fail. If you've been in a class, and we all probably have kids or kids. Permission to fail is a tough thing in school. When you get that answer wrong, you don't want to answer that question again. I don't understand. I'm uncomfortable with math. Please don't call me. Please don't call me. You call me, I got it wrong, and I never want to, and there's plenty of people. I have 6 kids, I've heard it. Don't want to call me again. 4-H is a little different where you're given permission to fail. You're going to be encouraged to do something where you fail. And then your leader or another, youth that's with you is going to show you how to do it better, but it's okay. You're expected to fail. And it's just a little different. Nothing against teachers. I got a daughter that's a teacher. I love teachers. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they're definitely, the science behind it is we definitely need to expose kids at early age to science, and they get a lot of it from here. Again, all 5 of my counties, I'm getting calls from elementary schools, get in here and do embryology, get in here and do some of these things because the kids really gravitate to it.
Well, I'll say, Colleen has done a masterful job at presenting what she's done over the last few years. I'm thoroughly impressed. And clearly the value that the Sanilac County Board of Commissioners has or sees in the money that's given to MSU Extension is in the 4-H program. That's our perspective. 4-H program knocks it out of the park. So it seems to me, from my perspective, that the value for that funding is best placed in the 4-H program. That I don't know if everybody here agrees with that. But
I agree.
we would all agree that we'd like to continue seeing that funding going into the 4-H program. But that was a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to speak, the trailer, like I said, I'm really good about going and finding the funding.
Mhm.
That trailer was, like I said, Women Who Cares. Our community partnership, when we give where you live, was another $700. That makes these things happen for me. I very much know, like, I continue to build this program even with the resources I have, and then I go find additional.
Yes,
I
I'm thoroughly impressed with what you presented here, and I think we all agree that we would love to see you continue doing more. And we encourage Jerry to spend the funding in a manner that reflects the work that's being done by your program coordinator.
All right, perfect. Thank you so very
Colleen,
much.
thank you, and thank
Yes,
you,
and
everyone.
Please, if there's ever questions, I'm a phone call away.
The only
I'll come
directive
back
I
anytime.
think we want to give 4-H and Fair Board, you guys got some hurdles to cover there, to get some things straightened out.
Yep.
And
We've been meeting and I think that's what we're making good progress and you can speak to any of the 7 or 8, but I think we had a really good meeting.
because 4-H has been part of my life all my life, and along with FFA, and it builds good character and it's good, the competition. So you guys need to figure out how to get through those hurdles. So thank you
But
very much.
Gary,
Thank
we
you,
appreciate the fact that this county, the commissioners are a phone call away. That's not the case in every county. Seriously, all 5 of you are a phone call away, so that's much appreciated. That's not typical in all 83 counties in Michigan. So
I think what the Fair Board struggles with is some of the things that's going on, like I just read that letter, they get little type of things like that. This is our county and our, so thank you very much. Appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Okay, next on our agenda is appointment standing committee and 13B county commission appointments board to board commissions and committees. And we have one today, Central Dispatch Advisory Board. There is, we need to appoint one, a 2-year term, which expires on 12/31/2022. And we have one individual vying for that position, and that is Clark Partega for township representative. So I'll entertain a motion. Do we have to have a roll call for this, or we can vote? So I'd entertain a motion. Is Chad Partega? There was a letter from Chad here, if you've seen it in our program.
Page 8.
So moved. Okay,
Support.
motion and support. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion passed. Okay, moving on. See you, Jerry. Moving on, we have 3 general resolutions today, and I've asked 3 of our commissioners here to do one each. First is the 2021 Sanilac County appropriate report relation. Wow, that's a lot of words. And that's going to be done by Commissioner Ballard. Sanilac County Board of Commissioners resolution in support of Sanilac County Park 5-year park and recreation plan. Commissioner Sarcella is going to bring that resolution to the floor. And then the third resolution is a Sanilac County Board of Commissioners resolution supporting American Rescue Plan state match programs, and that's going to be presented and brought to the floor by Commissioner Block. So Roger, you can go ahead and start.
Can I now? I'm almost out of water.
I was almost out of breath. We can mix it.
2021, mix it with what? 2021 Sanilac County apportionment report resolution. Whereas pursuant to the Michigan Constitution of 1963, Section 31, Article 9, and Michigan compiled laws, MCL 211.34, 211.34D, and or 211.24E, the various financial officers for the townships, cities, villages, school districts, and authorities have certified that the tax rates comply, and whereas the Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby certifies that the millages have been reduced if necessary, and that the truth in taxation hearings have been held if necessary. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes the spread of the following attached tax requests. Collection and distribution shall be in accordance with the provisions of the General Property Tax Act 1893 PA 206. Local unit treasurers shall distribute the tax education tax collections to the county treasurer pursuant to MCL 211.42. Be it further resolved that the county equalization director is authorized to amend as necessary.
Thank you, Commissioner. There's been a resolution presented. I'll entertain a support. Support. Any further questions?
Yes, Denise, can you speak to that?
This,
Yeah,
it would be, oh, go ahead, but no, I mean, this is Wendy's stuff.
Wendy's.
Yes.
Yeah, she's not here, is she?
It's in your packet here.
Yeah, I looked for it.
Well, I wasn't gonna read through it, you know.
I was just, wondering if this is any different than the previous year. She comes here and presents a
It's our-
large
it's our
volume of
yearly-
data. Yeah, okay.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Oh, roll call. Sorry, yeah. All three gotta be roll call.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Sarcella,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballard,
Yes.
Commissioner Wyatt,
Yes.
Chairman Hagel.
Yes. Thank you. Resolution passed. Next is the Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners resolution in support of Sand Lake County Parks, 5-year park and recreation plan. Commissioner Sarcella is gonna bring this to the floor.
Whereas the Parks Commission of Sand Lake County has undertaken a 5-year Parks and Recreation Plan, which describes physical features, existing recreation facilities, includes a handicap accessibility transition plan, includes goals and objectives of the Sand Lake County Parks Commission, includes an action plan to help attain said goals and objectives which will help improve and maintain recreation facilities during the period between 2022 and 2026. And whereas the public was given a well-advertised opportunity to review the final draft recreation plan for a period of at least 30 days. And whereas a public hearing regarding said 5-year recreation plan was conducted on October 5th, 2021 at Sand Lake County Emergency Operations Center to provide an opportunity for citizens to express opinions and ask questions and discuss all aspects of the recreation plan. And whereas public input regarding said 5-year recreation plan can be submitted at any time at the office of the Sand Lake County Drain Commission located within the Sand Lake County Courthouse or by attending any posted monthly meeting of the Sand Lake Parks Commission. And whereas the Sand Lake County Parks Commission has developed a plan for the benefit of the entire community, as well as those citizens visiting the community, would set adoption of plan to assist in meeting the recreation needs of the expanded community. And whereas the adoption and approval of said 5-year recreation plan will assist the Sand Lake County Parks Commission in obtaining grant funding to help achieve stated goals and objectives of said plan. And whereas after the public hearing, the Sand Lake County Parks Commission voted to forward said plan to the Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners for approval of said plan needs to be adopted by the highest governing body of the county. Now therefore be it resolved that the Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners hereby adopts the Sand Lake County Parks Commission 5-year recreation plan as written as a guideline for improving recreation within Sand Lake County.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. There's been a motion on the floor. I'll entertain any support.
I'll support.
Okay, and there's been a motion and support. I'll open it up for comments or questions. Commissioner, do you have any to add to this?
No, this resolution is necessary. Well, the 5-year plan is necessary for us to qualify for any grants.
Mhm.
And John Frazier writes it for us every 5 years. So we've been quite successful.
He's done a good job for it.
Yes, yes.
Our electrical upgrades, I noticed they're on the 5-year plan for infrastructure. Is that just like, I throw that in there because we're probably gonna need upgrades? Because I know we've had some pretty significant upgrades over there.
There's room for more upgrades to individual sites
Is it
or groups of sites
maybe weren't hit from previous,
from 30 amp service, say up to 50, just for example. That's a big,
is that an expectation as we move forward, upgrade everything to 50 amps?
could be.
Yeah.
It might be required in order to service everybody. Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in, sorry, go ahead. Well, give me automatic.
Commissioner Wyatt,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballard,
Yes.
Commissioner Sarcella,
Yes.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Chairman Hagel.
Yes. Last is the Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners resolution supporting American Rescue Plan State Match Programs. You talked a little bit about this earlier.
Whereas the state of Michigan has faced tremendous challenges as it dealt with the deadly pandemic for nearly a year and a half and is now presented with an opportunity to strategically invest in our residents, entrepreneurs, businesses, and communities. And whereas Michigan will receive more than $10 billion in fiscal recovery aid, with 83 counties slated to get $1.9 billion directly in American Rescue Plan funds. And whereas cities and larger townships will receive a total of 1.8 billion and non-entitlement communities approximately 644 million, with the state of Michigan itself receiving more than 6.5 billion. And whereas eligible expenditures include revenue reimbursement savings, growing interest on funds, broadband infrastructure, economic development, and individual assistance programs. And whereas county leaders are already under pressure to announce spending decisions, and elected officials at all levels of government will have to make decisions on where and how they will use the dollars with federal guidelines. And whereas the Michigan Association of Counties is working on a match program to earmark close to 4 billion in state ARP funds to leverage all levels of government to strategically invest one-time dollars in areas of greatest need for improvement. And whereas the Michigan Association of Counties has received positive feedback on the ideas put forth for match programs within the state. And whereas Michigan has a chance to amplify investments with the influx of federal funding and a collaborative effort by all levels of government that will allow the dollar to be stretched to invest in common goals. And whereas the comprehensive approach to leverage ARP dollars will provide Michigan the ability to amplify investment for a future by focusing resources in 5 key areas: water infrastructure and broadband, local capacity and fiscal stability, housing and community development, comprehensive economic development, public health, and safety. Whereas our future success is inextricably linked and strategic investment of our available resources needs to be supported and strengthen these connections. Therefore, be it resolved, the Sanilac County Board of Commissioners supports American Rescue Plan state match programs and authorizes the board chairman and staff to forward a copy of this resolution directly to all county commissioners or their equivalents in each of the 83 counties in the state of Michigan. Therefore, be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the proceedings of the Sanilac County Board of Commissioners this 19th day of October, 2021.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Bach. There's been a motion put on the floor. I'll entertain the support.
Support.
Okay, there's been a motion made and support. Any further questions, comments, or questions?
Who brought this resolution?
I did. So in our MAC updates that we get consistently, they've been pushing this concept for the last couple of months. And I saw it yet again that they were asking for us to pass a resolution such as this so that they could take it to the state and suggest, as we do with many resolutions that go around the state, that they have counties that are interested in getting match funding from the state to the ARP funds.
So the state currently has a plan that they do plan on implementing for match
Well,
money?
So now there is, and that actually that email and that correspondence came out after the suggestion that this be added.
And that was the 5-point-some billion.
Yeah, that's what it was indicated, but I see it in here, it's indicating at least 4 billion.
Well, that would be at least 4.
Yeah.
The general argument is the state has all this extra funding, share some of that with us.
Okay,
We can use that for leverage
Okay.
with the current ARPA.
okay, thank you.
All right, Denise? Got it right this time.
Commissioner Sarcella,
Yes.
Commissioner Wyatt,
Yes.
Commissioner Black,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballard,
Yes.
Chairman Hugo.
Yes. Motion passed. Thank you.
Congratulations, John. Your efforts were met with success by the report from earlier today, right?
Yeah,
So that's great.
that was a lot to read.
I think you and.
You have no one to blame but yourself.
Marcella must have went to speed reading classes. You guys. All right, next on our agenda is committee reports, and Commissioner Block, we'll start with you.
Well, as you talked earlier, Mr. Chairman, we did have an ARP meeting earlier today. It was attended by some township officials, and some city and village officials from our county, which was really nice to see. There were some good ideas tossed around. One thing that I will touch on, and I won't cover everything, so the Chairman Heberlin can discuss.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You miss, I'll get, yep.
So we're working on the lost revenue calculation, which is going to be the most flexible funding that we're going to be able to use out of this 8 million. We haven't quite got that finished yet. So that is kind of holding us up on making too many decisions right now. But we have asked the consultants some questions about some of the ideas that have been pitched around. One, say, being hooking up city water to Lexington Park. And it sounds like if it's water related and it's an improvement, those types of things would qualify under the normal ARP regulations. However, it does sound like this lost revenue, whatever that number is, that's gonna be some very flexible money. So we should expect whatever
Would you
the,
say very flexible?
very flexible.
Yeah, and that's a key to the whole thing as well.
Yeah. In the implementation of providing government services, even to the point that Tara discussed,
Animal shelter?
yeah, the animal shelter, even something like that, if we're providing a service, that funding could be used for that. So, and then further, a good thing for all of us to know as we talk to our townships, they also have funding available to them. In my district, we've had some struggles with townships not wanting to take the funding because they don't. And as we brought up in the meeting, some of these townships meet in an old schoolhouse and have zero infrastructure. So what are they really supposed to spend those funds on? And our health director, Bryant Wilkie, was here and he brought up a good point that well systems and sewer systems are water and sewer technically. So it may be possible for those townships that maybe don't have a different use for those funds. They may be able to support some of their maybe economically disadvantaged residents that maybe need a new septic system or potentially a new well, maybe someone still on an old crock well. So we're starting to identify some ways that funding may be used, which is excellent. Because not only is it an improvement for the residents, but then if we're drilling wells and installing septic fields, I mean, contractors, aggregate suppliers, that money's being spent in the community. So I think that pretty well covers what we discussed today.
Yeah.
I just have a couple questions on that.
Okay.
How was the attendance from the municipalities for your meeting?
Well, it's a good thing we didn't have everybody.
Yeah.
Because we would have needed, a bigger room.
Okay,
But I would say I saw representation from at least 3 townships and 2 cities.
2 cities, yeah.
so there are the villages and so forth, are all being notified that this is going on, then we can
Then,
give them some support and
yeah.
direction.
And I'll answer a question ahead of you, okay? I questioned Tara in that meeting, how often we do this. We're gonna do it once a month. So those municipalities and townships are gonna be, so I think it's Mr. Blatt said, it was, in some areas, it was a real eye opener. Some good news. So the things that we thought we couldn't do, we can do now. What was your other question?
That was it.
That was it.
Yeah, attended Council on Aging this week. They had their meeting on Monday afternoon. Trudy did a really good job with their budget because apparently they have some funding that needs to be utilized. And like Colleen alluded to, and even Jerry, staffing's been an issue and they have funding for programming, but they don't have the individuals to present the programming. So they're working on that. So they have a surplus for their new programming. They need additional staffing. Like I mentioned, their budget was approved and they discussed possibly reintroducing the senior newspaper that used to be out. Apparently the person that published that passed away. So then they've kind of missed their information. A lot of seniors like getting something in the mail. And so they're looking at that as well. And then they do have an issue with membership. Apparently someone moved out of one region and went over to the other area. So then like where Roger's representing his district had three people on Council on Aging, but now there's someone that's going to be stepping down. So they're working through that process. So it may turn out that somebody in your district, you may have to find someone for the Council on Aging as this process proceeds. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Well, I had two committee meetings today. First, this morning was the 9/11 Advisory Board, and I won't go through everything we talked about. Would be here the rest of the day. But the last 2 weeks ago, we approved the new pages for EMS and fire department. And I believe that it was 120 pagers we ordered, and they were around at the time $500. And when Dawn went back, Cubitt went back to order them, they sold them to them for $350. And so them were ordered, and it's.
I did not see you go in there.
What's
I
that?
thought for sure you said they doubled. I thought you were good.
But,
That's
yeah,
You don't hear that often.
no, you don't.
Well, all right.
We talked about staffing there, and also they're working on policy and procedure manuals. And we had one visitor, was the city manager, Dave Faber was there, and one of Dave's requests, reason he was there, is they are having issues, I think, with their tornado alarm, and he asked if the county or 9/11 would consider an $18,000 update to the tornado siren, and that would be computerized and electronically computerized and go through the 9/11 when something like that would happen. And Dawn Cubitt is ahead of 9/11, and she said they have way more in their hands than they need, and it's also a liability for the county to do that. And, so we listened to Mr. Faber, and there was a few comments given back, and Dawn basically said that that was really out of the question because of the liability issue and the staffing they have to do that. So I'm going to talk to Dave a little bit later, but we suggested maybe they look at a different way of attacking that. Right now, the county is not interested in that. Just to follow up real quick, because I think Commissioner Blatt did a great job of going through the ARPA fund committee meeting we had today. And we looked at operational audit for the medical care facility. That might fall under that. My files may fall under that. Good chance of it, I guess, really. And I'm just listing a few of them I took down. Sewer and water townships, what Commissioner Black talked about. Water quality infrastructure, he talked about. Sanilac County Parks, we talked about that, about the bathhouses. So that's something we're going to look into, and they're going to look into. There's a possibility there. We talked about it, entryway coming into the courthouse for not only public safety, but also if we have to go back to testing people coming in the door. And that was accepted, and I shouldn't say approved, but good chance we can do that. HVAC, obviously, they're looking at clean air. And then we talked about the health department. As some of you know, they are either looking at renovating the current building they're in or possibly a new building. So I asked the question, if we build a new building, would they consider an updated HVAC for that new building? Because looking at a whole new building, they're not going to fund that, right? So she said she would look into it. I forgot what the lady's name was now. Tanya, yeah. Yeah, I have it written right here. And so she's going to look into that. And also we talked about animal control, and that is a government service. So we're, as you know, we're possibly down the road. Our contract going around with the city. We're going to have to build a new animal shelter. So I think that's it. I've talked enough. We covered that enough, I think, haven't we? Roger?
You done?
Yeah.
I attended the DTF meeting last Thursday, not a lot to elaborate on there. Other than the drug dog that everybody I think is aware of is still doing a fantastic job. Their arrests are up big time. So that was money well spent. And that's something, you probably have a canine thing in 4-H, I'm thinking.
Yes, we have canine. I also just got a connection with your dog. So when we were talking about doing exploration days, that's something kids absolutely love doing, is doing those different, things with the dog.
I'm sure you could contact DTF and they would be more than happy to come out and do a demo.
Yeah, and that's something the clover buds especially, so in those clover bud camps,
Yep.
those little kids just suck up all that like a sponge.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and then parks, as I stated, they're all doing phenomenal. Lexington actually hit $100,000 in camping revenues this year, and they've got 2 more weekends. So all the parks are doing great. We are in the process of getting our Semco gas connection done. They did receive payment. They're about 6 weeks out and doing the install. So I have an RFP out for contractors to get somebody lined up to do the rest of the conversion. So hopefully we can get it done this winter. If not, it'll be a springtime project. There will be some underground work done. So that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner
The
Bell.
policy committee, you can hit that.
Well, Roger and I were in the policy committee today, tidying up on some policies that dealt specifically with, what was it?
Federal grant compliance.
Federal grant compliance. This was a recommendation of our auditing firm, Yo and Yo. And we suggested that we go ahead with the existing language that Tara was able to update and run it by Yo and Yo to make sure it meets the requirements that they were actually categorizing us under, judging us under. And so we'll hear back from that. We're going to recommend that the Finance Committee in November 2nd meeting.
So we're not gonna break down all those budget lines like we did the last couple. of
This is different.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, this is almost like a kind of a housekeeping kind of a thing, wouldn't you say? Dealing with language specifically related to federal grant funding.
Okay.
What else we got? The now defunct broadband committee, just a matter of note that Thumb Electric Co-op has purchased, you heard about that?
Advantage here.
Yeah, Air Advantage. And TEC was one of the three businesses that won the RDOF auction, the Rural Development Opportunity Fund auction, that is proposed to put, good solid internet to probably 92% of Sanilac County. So they just expanded their footprint somewhat. And then
We're gonna move with that, Eric Manager, you're gonna move more into Tuscola County with that, right?
I don't know. I mean, perhaps. they're- they were- Yes, they are. Yeah, they are reflected in that area as well. Yeah. And then the Personnel Committee met actually a couple times, but of significance would have been October 12th with Judge Rassel. And recommend that we post and fill the position of the administrative assistant, which became vacant for who knows why. How did that happen? Gee whiz.
She's not listening. You're gonna be missing these.
Big shoes you're leaving behind.
I've had a good run.
You had a good run.
Yep, 33 years, I'm done.
All right.
You run the good race, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations on it.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. Under new business, we'll move on to FA. That wasn't no. New business, we'll move on to FA 162-21, approval of current claims.
The Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of current claims for 2021 identified on the accounts payable report dated October 12th, 2021 for the general bank account in the amount of $138,276.10.
Support.
There's been a motion made in support. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion passed. FA 163-21, budget adoptions, amendments, appropriations, and transfers.
The Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the following amendments and establishes the following accounts as presented.
Support.
There's been a motion made in support for FA 163-21. Any further discussions or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion passed. Next is FA 164-21, approval of additional general fund bank account checks charged September 2021.
The Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of additional general fund bank account checks charged to September 2021 as follows: $321,238.35 in ACH payments, $495,641.67 in checks for a total of $816,880.02.
Okay, been a motion made in support for FA 164-21. Any further discussions or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion passed. Next is FA 165-21, authorization for courthouse closure, construction and land use.
The Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes the closure of the courthouse offices on Wednesday, December 8th, 2021 at 3:30 PM for the purpose of conducting the annual employee Christmas party.
Support.
It been motion made and support for FA 165-21. Any further discussion? Everybody wants to go to a party. Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion passed.
Not on Wednesday.
No. Next, FA 166-21, adoption of 2022 proposed budget resolution, adoption of 2020 proposed county budget and general appropriation act.
The Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby adopts the 2022 proposed resolution, the General Appropriations Act, and 2022 proposed general and non-general fund budgets with the omission of $266,000 from the information technology budget. This item has been referred to the ARPA Funds Committee for review.
Okay, been a motion made and support for FA 166
Chairman, I think I need to, I didn't quite finish that yet. There was a,
Was there?
there's another section here.
It said attached, I thought it was, go ahead.
Further hereby schedules a public hearing on the 2022 proposed budget for November 16th, 2021, and direct the board secretary to publish the legal notice.
Thank you.
Still support.
Any further questions? All in favor, say aye.
I got a question.
Yep, go ahead, sorry.
Trying to read this correctly. We're not adopting this as it stands. We're having a hearing first, right?
Hearing, yeah, have to have a hearing.
Adoption of the proposed budget. Okay, so it's the proposed budget. And the 266, that's the only thing?
That was brought up during the presentation. So that was the My File upgrade that we talked about at the ARPA committee. We wanted to make sure we had funding for that.
Okay, got it. And thank you.
Good question, good answer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same motion passed. Next on our agenda is public comments, and I'll open up the floor for public comments. Hearing none, we'll move on to, we have no closed session today, and so we don't have approval for a closed session meeting minutes. So I'll ask for the favorite motion. Okay, then a motion for support to adjourn. Any further